This is part of the Miraflores lock on the Panama Canal. Each day, about 40 ships pass through it, taking the famous shortcut between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This bulk carrier is a couple of meters wider than the Titanic, which would have easily fit inside these locks. Even though the Titanic was 90 meters longer. Panama is part of the isthmus that connects North and South America. At its narrowest point, only 70 kilometers separates the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The Spanish founded Panama City in 1519. It's one of the oldest European settlements on the American mainland, and it was the very first on the Pacific coast. 500 years later, Panama is an independent country of around 4 million people. The modern city skyline is testament to the current prosperity. Most of this construction is quite recent, since the turn of the century, when the USA finally handed over to Panama ownership of the canal. The prosperity isn't spread evenly. Panama has a lot of inequality, but it now has a growing middle class, and next to the modern city, the old city is being restored and renovated and gentrified. Despite its reputation as a tax haven, the foundation of Panama's prosperity has always been founded on its geography. 3 million years ago, colliding tectonic plates lifted Panama from the sea, changing the ocean currents and creating a land bridge between the North and South American continents. Panama's Biomuseum celebrates what happened next. Animals and plants that had evolved on separate continents, isolated for millions of years, began to intermingle and compete, creating a hotspot for biological diversity. The museum is a Frank Gehry design. Perhaps he was inspired by the idea of colliding tectonic plates. But it is the canal which has defined modern Panama. It may seem counterintuitive, but the Panama Canal crossing is not east-west, but rather north-south. An average of 35 to 40 ships transit the canal each day. Each ship pays a fee, which depends on its size and type.
They go through the lock with a Panama Canal tugboat on the bow and one on the stern.
The average fee is around $150,000 US per ship, but some ships can pay over $1 million. Panama earns around $2 billion US a year from the canal. As you move through the locks, you begin to appreciate the genius of the original design. All of the water moves under gravity. There are no pumps.
And as they equalize, water will stop flowing, they'll open the gates in front, and we will move out. The beauty of the whole thing is, at the scale it's done. We're talking about moving 26 million gallons of fresh water in just 8 minutes. That's how long it takes to fill the chamber, that's how long it takes to empty the chamber. 8 minutes to move that volume of water.
In just 8 minutes, 100 million litres of water can move from one chamber to the next. That's the equivalent of 40 Olympic swimming pools. The gates of the locks are still the originals, the ones installed in 1914. They were made to last. And 100 years ago, the canal was designed so all of the electricity to power it was generated by a small hydro plant on the Atlantic side. It's still working today. In building the canal, The most difficult challenge for the engineers was here, the Calibra cut. They had to create an artificial valley out of a small mountain, reducing its height by 52 metres. It was an incredible achievement for the time and not easy to do, even now. Maintenance of the canal has never stopped. Dredging and erosion and landslip prevention is ongoing. When Lake Gatun was created more than 100 years ago, it was the largest artificial lake in the world. But while the lake is huge, the channel deep enough for ships is quite narrow. Navigational markers help pilots stay in the channel, and it's more than 15 metres of depth. Maintaining the depth of water in the lake is an ongoing issue. 200 million litres of water is lost with every ship that transits, and the rivers that feed the lake are now vulnerable to climate change and to drought. In 2016, Panama expanded the canal to handle ships 2.5 times bigger than before. The new locks use a clever design which recycles 60% of the water, so the new locks actually use less water per ship than the old. To complete the passage to the Atlantic, ships need to step through 3 locks to descend to sea level. Those little electric locomotives are called mules. They don't actually pull the ships through the locks. Ships use their own power for that. The job of the mules is to keep ships perfectly centered in the lock. Sometimes there can be as little as 2 feet of clearance on either side of a ship, so they have to be exact. The mules can also act as brakes to slow a ship down if need be. The alternative to the canal is a sea route 6,500 kilometres longer and far more dangerous. This marvel of engineering was built more than 100 years ago, a credit to the vision and ingenuity of the people who made it.